Sup guys, my name is Courtney Budson and this is What's for Din. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my sun-dried tomato creamy chicken and pasta recipe. This is nearly a one-pan recipe. It is so creamy and flavorful you won't believe it. And on top of that, it takes less than 30 minutes. So what more could you ask for? So without further ado, let's get started. You'll need some olive oil, butter, minced garlic, chopped up onion, and I have some sun-dried tomato here. This was packed in olive oil and I just made sure I drained it and kind of squeezed off the excess olive oil. Some Parmesan cheese. You'll need some heavy cream or milk, some chicken stock. I also have an array of dried seasonings. I just have some dried thyme, some dried oregano, cayenne pepper, and red pepper flakes. If you don't want heat, just leave those two out. Then I also have some fresh spinach, some freshly chopped basil, of course some angel hair pasta. I like angel hair because it takes less time to cook than regular spaghetti. Salt and pepper, and of course you're gonna need some chicken. Now I used 2 chicken breasts. They were kind of big, and then I just chopped them up into cubes. And this way, when you chop it like this, instead of just browning it and then taking it out and chopping it, then it just goes by a lot faster, and you still get that great flavor from the browning because you can brown it on all sides, which is great. So we're gonna go over to the stove and we'll get it cooking. So before we start anything, you want to get a big old pot of water getting ready to boil so that we can throw our pasta in when we're ready. Make sure you season it with some salt, and then we can move on to the next step. So I have a large skillet here. I added some olive oil and I added half of my butter because I like the browning that the butter provides, but the flavor of the olive oil. So I'm just gonna let that butter melt down. I'm gonna go and add my chicken. And before I stir anything, I'm gonna season it with salt and pepper. And we're looking to cook this all the way through and get some nice brown color. Now I like using a bigger pan because you're not crowding it, so it's not gonna steam it. Instead, it's gonna brown it really nicely. And that brown color is what provides a lot of flavor in this. So cook that through and we'll go on to the next step. So my chicken is nice and brown. I'm pretty sure it's all done, but I always like to take a piece, cut it open to make sure it's no longer pink. And it is no longer pink, so we're good to go. Now I'm just gonna take the chicken out, set it on a clean plate. Don't put it on the same plate you took it from, and we'll set it aside. So all those brown bits that are left in the bottom of the pan, I'm gonna leave that because that's great flavor. I'm gonna add the rest of my butter. And to that, I'm gonna add my onion, and I'm gonna saute that just until it's nice and translucent. So while we're waiting on our onions, we can go ahead and start boiling our pasta. So you can see my onions are translucent. I'm gonna go ahead and add my garlic. If you watch any of my other videos, you'll know that I never add garlic in with the onion because by the time the onion's translucent, the garlic's burned and browned and it gives a bitter taste to everything. So I'm just gonna cook this for about 2 minutes or until it's nice and fragrant. And while that's going, I'm gonna add my seasonings and spices. Okay, my garlic's nice and fragrant. So now I'm gonna turn up the heat a little bit. I'm gonna add my chicken broth, my heavy cream, and my sun-dried tomatoes. Give that a gentle stir. And I'm gonna season it with just a little bit of salt and pepper. Don't use too much salt because the Parmesan that we're gonna add later is really salty. So go ahead and bring this up to a simmer. And I'm gonna let mine simmer for about 5 minutes until it's nice and thick and creamy. And then we'll go on to the next step. So now that it's reduced for about 4 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and add my chicken right back in and my Parmesan cheese. Give that a good stir and bring it back up to a simmer. While that's coming to a simmer, I'm gonna add my basil and my spinach. I know it looks like a lot of spinach, but trust me, the spinach will wilt down and you'll barely even notice it. So now that my basil and spinach have wilted, I'm going and adding my pasta right into the pan. Give it a good stir and you are ready to serve. You guys, I cannot tell you how good it smells in here. I can hardly wait anymore, so I am just gonna go ahead and dish myself up a plate. Oh man. Please make this recipe because if you don't, you will be missing out. It is so delicious and creamy. It has just the right amount of spice, and it is just, this is one of my favorite meals. Something on my mouth. This is by far one of my favorite meals ever, and I know it will be in your rotation as well. So if you do want to recreate this recipe, just look below in the description box. I'll list all the measurements as well as the written instructions. And if you did like this video, don't forget to smack that like button as well as share it because it helps me out so much. So as always, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.